It's another beautiful morning here at my home in suburban Indianapolis. I finished my Coke for breakfast, and I put it in my recycling bin. But what happens to it from here? Today I'm finding out. Recycling in the US can be tedious and confusing, but I want to get this out of the way now. It is very much not a scam. So why do so many people feel like it is? Why is it so complex and varied by location? I found out for myself by going behind the scenes at one of the country's largest waste management companies to watch this plastic bottle go through the entire system and become a new plastic bottle again. Along the way, I learned about all the economic and structural problems that lead to this being so complicated. I also got to meet one of my all-time favorite internet people who's taking matters into her own hands and started her own recycling business. And to make all of this harder on myself while filming, I tried to live a zero waste week and be a perfect recycler, which means can't use the trash bin. I have to carry this with me till I find a recycling bin. So how's my zero waste week gonna work? The main rule is I will send nothing to a landfill. I can recycle it, compost it, or I have to keep it here on my desk. The other thing is I should be trying to reduce my consumption even of recyclable material as much as possible. I'm officially starting this tomorrow and I am already very nervous. I am going to have to change a lot of my habits or I'm going to end up with a massive pile of trash on my desk, which I really don't want to have.
1 hour later.
Okay, I came to Trader Joe's because I thought I could make this week easier. If I'm grocery shopping, I'm not doing so much takeout, but already this is maybe more confusing and I don't know what of this I can have, what's recyclable. I don't know if this kind of plastic is recyclable. Does this even have like a number of the kind of plastic it is? It's like a plastic coating. That is number 5 plastic. Does that say number 1? Cardboard, and then there's plastic. I can't have this as a meal. I don't know with packaging. Okay, that was super stressful. I left with nothing. I literally just don't know what I can and can't buy. I was very afraid to just buy stuff that I would end up having to keep on my desk for a week and mess up. So we'll try again tomorrow.
The next day.
Okay, it's time for lunch. It feels like a huge opportunity to accidentally create a bunch of landfill material. I think it should all be recyclable.
12 seconds later.
What the fuck? Inside my little thing is a plastic fork. I didn't ask for a fork. I don't need a fork to eat sushi. They didn't even have an option of just chopsticks. This is fucked up.
8 hours later.
Okay, I failed. I'm at Cane's. Can you just not put it in a bag? But legally, I had to have Cane's for dinner. It's a whole thing. That's a lot of trash, but it does look delicious. And bag. Okay, I'm at a Broadway show. I have to choose my drink based on which drink comes in a glass that I give back to them, not the souvenir cup. So, wine it is. All right, just got home from carrying my trash home from dinner, which is certainly a moment of reflection in this process. This is getting overwhelming, but the good news is it is time for me to talk to the experts, and hopefully they can guide this journey more. I need help. I'm picking up your recycling today. We're here at the crack of dawn. We're about to get in the truck and get to work. We're here with Chuck.
Chuck.
We're so excited. All right, you want to show me how to climb in this truck?
Sure. Got your handle there, handle here. Just
Okay.
pull yourself on.
3 points of contact. This is serious stuff.
Very serious.
Is OSHA watching? Oh my God, yeah. Do you have the horn that you pull? Is this the horn thing?
It is.
Can I do it?
Yep.
That's awesome. So it's a pretty solitary job. Normally it's just you in here.
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of makes it nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, most of us have between 800 and 1,500 homes a day.
Wow. Now Chuck, let me have a turn. We have to switch sides. Chuck, I'm so bad at
A little bit
video
more.
games.
There you go. Now the white button on this side.
White button
Yep.
on this side. And now what? Oh, hold it down more.
Push the joystick forward. Now out. This way. A little bit more. A little more. Now hold the other white button. That's it.
I did it! That's so crazy. We slowed Chuck down a lot, and we didn't collect as much trash as we're supposed to, but it was time to drive back to the sorting center.
All right. Well, my job is done.
This is all we got.
Yep. Well, look at that. I mean, that's 40 pounds.
All right.
I mean, you know that.
Whoa. Pete Keller is the VP of Recycling and Sustainability here at Republic. He's going to show us the next steps of how my plastic bottle gets recycled. How many hours a day is this running?
Well, so today this facility receives about 250 tons a day.
How many tons am I looking at, if we could estimate?
I would guess that you're looking at 350 tons.
Okay,
Yeah.
So this is more than a day's worth.
This is more than a day's work.
All right, let's go see how this stuff gets sorted.
All right, let's go up there. We'll see those plastic bottles going in the bunker.
Perfect.
Yes.
Here's how this giant pile of mixed recycling gets sorted into these neat piles. The first thing to be separated out is glass. All material gets dropped onto a screen called a glass breaker. The broken glass falls through and everything else moves along. The next step is employees sorting by hand to remove any tanglers that can jam up machines down the line. Things like ropes, hoses, and clothing. Now the 2D material, paper and cardboard, gets separated away from the 3D material, everything else. A big series of rotating discs pull all the paper one way while other materials bounce down and off the back of the screen.
We're just beginning to peel the material apart, fractionate it, so every successive step has less material on it.
Right. My favorite, and the most whimsical step, a big rotating magnet goes over the conveyor belt. Any steel cans attached to that, and all other material falls below to the next conveyor belt. This is crazy. Aluminum cans are the next to go. They're pulled away from everything else with an eddy current.
Producing a field of electrons. The electrons attach themselves to aluminum.
Yeah.
And then in this pulley, there's a negatively charged magnet. Negatively charged aluminum can hits that negative magnet and it pops over this separator.
Finally, we should just have plastic on the line. A team of humans and robot arms with cameras sort this all into PET, PP, and HDPE plastic. What happens to the contaminants? That's just landfill?
Landfill.
What percentage of what you get is contaminants?
It's a little different in every community. It averages 18 to 20%.
What would need to change for you all to be able to recycle all of this?
The single biggest thing to address contamination is public education.
Yeah.
And public education is not an event, right? It's got to be a continued investment. Sometimes the onus is on companies like ours. Sometimes it's the responsibility of the community, right? Whether that's a city or a county. We're starting to see a little bit more harmonization, what's acceptable, what isn't. Here recently, polypropylene cups were included on the widely accepted labels, but that's material that we want in the curbside programs. We want to collect it.
All the different materials are turned into bales that can be shipped out from here. Here's where everything gets sent from here. Any contaminants from this process get sent to a local Republic landfill. The glass goes to a secondary processing facility in Ohio where the cullet is separated by color and sent to bottle manufacturers. The paper and cardboard go to mills in Wisconsin, Indiana, and Kentucky. The steel goes to mills in Michigan and Alabama. The aluminum goes to a smelter in New York. And all of the plastic goes to the Republic Polymer Center here in Indianapolis. So we followed it there. What is this? What is this, Plastic City? The Polymer Center takes in 3 kinds of plastic and gets it ready to be sold back into the market.
So right below us, bales of PET bottles. That bottle that you dropped on the line over at the recycling center is going to end up here probably tomorrow.
Bales of PET, HDPE, and PP plastic arrive from sorting centers. The main point of this facility is to sort things by color and remove any remaining contaminants. Some of this sorting is done by hand, and some of this sorting is done with cameras that separate material with air jets. PET is sorted into one pile that's all clear and blue, and one mix of all other colors. Clear and white are always the most valuable because they can be remade into any color.
Our ultimate target here is clear PET, right? That's what we want to convert into flake. Leave the blue with the clear. Is that clear PET? This clear material and blue material. Clear PET, the clear hot walk flake, clear flake. We like blue PET. Everything has to be clear.
Colorful plastics are worth less because they can usually only be converted into gray or black. So you all just built this center. Why did you build it now?
There's a couple of reasons. Our customers are asking us to. There's some pull through from the brands. There's a number of states that have passed legislation that require a minimum amount of recycled content in packaging. For instance, California today, every single-use plastic container has to have at least 25% recycled content.
Wow.
So there's some of that regulatory framework that supports the investment. There's a number of states that are in the rulemaking phase of what's known as extended producer responsibility, EPR. And most of those EPR schemes also have minimum content standards. So there's going to be future demand for the products that we produce today. And it was just the right time for us to make the investment.
Once everything is sorted by color, the clear PET gets grinded up into PET flake. It gets sent through a caustic wash to remove glue and other residue, then it's hot washed, rinsed, and dried. This flake gets sorted by size and bag. There it is. Plastic flake. This is what all that work was for, just to get to this. This is what bottle producers are buying from you?
Correct.
How much does this cost versus new plastic?
Generally speaking, this material is about a 30% premium to virgin material.
There it is. How could we get there to be more recycling? It's a matter of demand in the market on the back side.
So we like to say you can't have environmental sustainability without economic sustainability. There needs to be some balance in the market. Public policy regulation likely has a role to play. So those states that have minimum content standards, we think that's good public policy.
Yeah.
So we'll continue to make these investments so long as the market is there.
So everything we saw today leads up to this.
Yes.
Leads up to us having plastic that can be turned back into bottles.
This is a ready-to-go drop-in solution for beverage containers. But this is how the material is delivered to market.
All right, it's time to see how they turn it back into bottles. We're here at Coke. I'm gonna drink that up.
So this is what we call a preform. When it comes back from the Republic Services Group and that flake that you've seen, it then gets put into a pellet, and then at our bottle manufacturer with Southeastern Container gets turned into a preform. You'll see it's got a little bit of a grayer tint. That means that it is actually made out of recycled material. So this preform's coming in, and it's an old bottle that's already made into a new bottle. That's what we're trying to accomplish here with our partnership with Republic Services. So you'll notice the preforms are coming down in a conveyor belt. They come down, and then they whip through a very fast process where they're actually getting blown into new bottles.
If I run around fast enough, I can watch the whole thing fill up. I don't think there's running allowed in a factory. So I saw that Coke had a goal to get 100% of packaging to be recyclable by 2025.
Yeah, that's
How did that
changed.
go?
Yeah,
World Without Waste was a set of goals that Coke announced and publicized widely in 2018 and then went back on in 2024. Sadly, they've scrubbed all mention of it from the internet, except for right here where we can read it with the Wayback Machine. The goals were, by 2025, make 100% of Coke packaging recyclable. By 2030, help collect and recycle the equivalent of 100% of its packaging, make bottles with an average of 50% recycled content, and serve 25% of its global product volume in reusable packaging.
there's a difference between the bottler and the Coke company.
Okay.
So we're Coca-Cola Consolidated.
Got it.
That was a goal that the Coke company had out there.
Okay. Coke versus Coke Consolidated, an interesting distinction. The Coca-Cola Company is the global brand you think of when you think of Coke. All they do is manufacture the syrup and sell that to bottlers, like Coke Consolidated, the largest independent bottler in the US. The Coca-Cola Company does not control most of their bottlers, but they do set sustainability targets for them through clauses in their syrup contracts.
Let me say this.
Yeah.
It is our intention to get as many bottles and cans as we possibly can back so we can make them into new bottles and cans.
Right.
And we did that by putting the cart in front of the horse. So instead of waiting for the recycling rates in the U.S. to go up, because PET has a very low recycling rate in the U.S.,
Yeah.
we said, let's go ahead and use recycled material in our packaging, so that will then incentivize our suppliers in the supply chain to help increase the ability with infrastructure to get recycled material back.
This is very true, and it's a big part of what makes the recycling industry so difficult. There has to be someone who wants to use this recycled material, otherwise it doesn't make sense for recyclers to capture it. Coke setting these recycled materials targets means that companies like Republic know they have a market that will buy their post-consumer material. This means that those recyclers then invest in bigger facilities and public education to increase recycling rates.
We are making our Coca-Cola family, the entire 20-ounce line, Coca-Cola, Diet Coke, Cherry Coke, Coke Zero, anything that has Coca-Cola in it in a 20-ounce is made out of 100% recycled PET, and that is the majority of our portfolio. So by doing that, we have to rely on our suppliers to give us recycled material,
Right.
which is what helps the folks like Republic Services know they've got business if they invest in the recycling model.
That makes sense, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Very fun. I thought asking about Coke's publicly announced sustainability goals was a pretty basic question, but Todd forgot that he was wearing a microphone and apparently felt differently.
We got to be able to see this before they release it,
No,
right?
I can't hardly hear anything you're saying.
Well,
I'm like, I don't know.
she's hitting us on the ringers. We got to definitely want to sign off on anything.
Got a fresh one off the vine. Okay, you have devoted your life to studying trash. Why is that? Lily Baum-Pollins is a professor of urban studies and planning at Hunter College and the author of Resisting Garbage. I wanted to see if she could give me any insight that would make me a better recycler.
Great question. A lot of people ask me that. I guess it's an unusual path. So one of the things that I love about studying trash is that it tells us everything that we don't want to know about ourselves. And in that way, it's kind of the most honest biography of a civilization.
I told Lily about the tech we saw at Republic and wanted to know how widespread that stuff really is. Like, can you, dear viewer, expect that your recycling really gets sorted the same way?
First of all, I think when you go on tours of recycling plants, the people tend to present their plants as being like super high tech. And certainly things like the AI cameras are newer interventions.
This was actually installed here last week.
But actually a lot of that technology that you're seeing in use has been around for a long time. So pretty much everywhere that's doing sorting is going to have something that looks a little bit like that.
At Coke, we learned a lot of fun things about their World Without Waste goals, or lack of continuing World Without Waste goals that they've now gone back on.
Can't use that sign because that's an old term.
How are companies thinking about sustainability right now? It feels like at best it is marketing for them, but can we really expect better?
Well, I'm so glad you asked. I would say that for the most part, as long as I have been studying these issues, companies have been getting more sophisticated at talking about environmental issues. They've also been getting more sophisticated at making it look like they're doing stuff without doing anything substantive. If you really dig into what the companies were promising, it was really never that much. So, right now, we as individuals pay the costs of the overproduction of plastic. We pay by the labor that we have to do to keep things separate. We pay with our emotion, all the guilt that we carry and all of the feelings that we're dealing with. We carry this material physically inside of our bodies, in our brains, in our amniotic fluid. It's literally everywhere. So we're carrying that cost in kind of these non-economic ways. Cities bear the cost by having to pay for waste management and recycling. And then the companies don't pay, they pay the material and labor cost to produce it, and that's it. And then they make much more than that from selling all of this stuff.
I'm walking around right now trying to decide what to get for lunch, and I am paralyzed by indecision. This is what Lily's talking about. This is an insane weight for me to try and bear.
I'm picturing the packaging option from every single restaurant and trying to decide if it would be recyclable and which one has the least packaging overall, because to have packaging and recycle it even in the first place, really I should be a Disney.
Oh my god, I finally just came to Walgreens and the bottle deposit machine is working. And I'm terrified because for the first time I see that it says canned plastic. And everything that I have with me is my glass bottles. It's so frustrating because I want glass to be this perfect solution to single-use packaging. It's infinitely recyclable. There's not the microplastics that come with plastic packaging. So what's the deal? Why aren't we using it? Why aren't we recycling it? We are on our way to visit my friend Fran, who has her own glass recycling business, and I hope she has some answers for us. We have been in New Orleans for for 2 seconds and I already accidentally picked up trash and trash and trash. Traveling is making this way harder. It's only been like 5 hours and I already have so much stuff. Another failure at lunch. I have straw trash. Straw. Why did I grab a straw?
Point being, give us some money if you're enjoying the show. We're desperate for weed and alcohol, and I don't want to be sober for this anymore. Thank you! Thank you!
I wish I had the drunk.
You have a great night.
Thank you.
Everyone that I've told, I'm like, I'm going to interview the glass girl from TikTok. They're like, no way. Everyone knows you. Such cool stuff. Okay, wow, what a facility.
We're on Bayou Bienvenue. We're just coastal. Got a coastal breeze coming in.
All right, so what is the process?
Okay, so the first step of the process is actually collection. So we collect glass from bars like Sazerac House, restaurants, hotels, residents.
Since we were already in town, I figured we should head to the bar and see this in action. Well, how long ago was this bar founded?
The first iteration was in 1852.
Did you all invent the Sazerac, or it's named for the bar?
We like to say that, but no, we didn't. we do like to think of ourselves as the best place to get a Sazerac, obviously.
Tell me about what you all have been doing with Glass Half Full.
Yeah, so we started our partnership with Glass Half Full in early November. This partnership just came about because obviously we have a bar, we have 504 rooms, so we've got a lot of glass happening, coming in and out. I'm sure you guys know there's no recycling program for that outside of Glass Half Full here in New Orleans, so we wanted to start recycling some of that, and we spoke with Ricky over there, and we're able to kind of make it happen.
There it is!
So here it is. I believe we had a pickup on Monday, yesterday already. So obviously this is going pretty quick. I have a feeling we'll be in conversations about getting more of them soon.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So you guys have been happy with the program?
Oh, I think absolutely.
Cheers to recycling.
No, but it's good though.
No, it's awesome. I love it, of course. And I always love strong cocktails, and I could drink you under a table.
So we collect glass all over town, actually Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. So we have the capacity to do about 100 tons a day if we needed to. We're not at that capacity, so we overbuilt this purposefully to be able to grow into it and to be able to expand our collections.
Everyone's like, oh, recycling's fake, recycling's fake. No, it's not, first of all. And second of all, you can do it yourself. And then look what you can do. Glass Half Full has a pretty streamlined operation since they just handle glass. Trucks bring in bottles from their community pickup points and dump it all into this pile. The front loader dumps glass into the hopper a little at a time to go down the conveyor belt. From here it gets crushed into cullet, which is the small pieces that get sold to market. Then optical sorters use compressed air to expel anything that's not glass. Clear cullet is sold to market. Then fines, pieces of glass that are too small to sell, and green and amber cullet is all crushed even more into sand. Back to Arrakis.
I know, it's doing vibes for sure. That's our sand,
That's so much sand.
Brown looking.
That's awesome. Of all the glass that comes into this system, about half becomes cullet and half becomes sand. In other places, recycled glass sand might be sold for something like sandblasting, but Glass Half Full uses it all for their coastal restoration projects, which happen right here in their backyard bayou. It's got that good marsh smell.
So that is fucking sewer runoff. This bayou was killed by saltwater intrusion, and now there's sewer runoff. So we're trying to bring back wetland plants to the area, which help filter all of those toxins.
What a beautiful bayou full of poop.
And trash.
And trash, wow, it's awesome. But you're trying. Look at these islands. Would you all believe that island is man-made, is woman-made? So this is all glass sand that you all made.
So we had this idea to turn glass into sand and use it for coastal restoration. So I worked with a lot of scientists from Tulane University, where I went to school, and we got a National Science Foundation grant to do a bunch of research on the safety, the efficacy.
New Orleans right now is trying to get rid of their curbside recycling? What's going on? There's a big New Orleans recycling story going on right now that I wanted to get Fran's take on. In 2023, the New Orleans Office of Resilience and Sustainability received a $4 million grant from the EPA to expand curbside recycling. Then, the recycling partnership gave them another $1 million. This money is supposed to go to distributing recycling bins to every household, since only half of them currently have one. The problem is the city council has to vote on actually spending the grant money, and for 3 years they've refused to even put it on their agenda. And now the money's expiring.
$5 million is expiring, and the council will not put it on the agenda to start approving spending.
Why won't the council put it on the agenda?
Great question. To answer that, you have to think about who benefits from us not using this grant. So if you think about every resident pays for recycling, okay? We have a sanitation fee for trash and recycling. It's all inclusive, but only half of them are receiving that service. So the haulers are paid the same. They pick up the trash and they pick up whoever has opted into recycling. If we were to get everyone a recycling cart, they would still be paid the same. So they don't like that.
And so they're, lobbying politicians to do that?
Yeah, they've been opposed to converting to an opt-in program. They've said things like, people don't want to recycle, people don't understand, which is insulting, genuinely, right? To say that recycling's too complicated. Like, how could they figure that out? Trash is political.
Trash is super, super, super political.
There are a lot of interests in trash that make it difficult to recycle.
You're very informed on the issue. Do you have hope? How do you stay hopeful about recycling?
Of course I have hope. My company's called Glass Half Full. We named our company Glass Half Full for that reason. When we started, we had people telling us recycling's broken, it's too big of an issue, how in the hell are you gonna do that? You're 2 college kids, you have no money, no experience. And we were like, valid, but any small impact that we can make, any glass that we can divert from landfills, any sand that we can use to grow native marsh grasses, that's sick. Like, we're gonna do that. Yeah. We're gonna take every step that we can in the right direction as opposed to doing nothing.
My zero waste journey has come to an end. I'm gonna go debrief with Professor Lilly, but it did not go as well as I thought it might. I kind of thought I would do better, but I'm celebrating with candy I haven't been able to have in a long time since this packaging is not recyclable. We're here again with Professor Lilly to recap how I've done on my zero waste journey. And I've chosen this spot because it's emblematic of my failures in my zero waste journey. Behind me is the Department of Sanitation site where trash barges leave the city full of landfill material, and a lot of my landfill material will be on them, unfortunately.
It's true. It's true.
Okay, being zero waste did not work for me. What should the average person do? If I care about recycling, how can I make sure less stuff is going to landfills?
Well, it's really hard as an individual to make that happen. Chances are that you can't do anything in your own life that's going to make less waste go into landfills.
Yeah.
But what I tell my students is the most important thing you can do is to educate yourself on the system that you're a part of. That's the most important first step. So learn what the solid waste management system looks like in the city or town that you live in. Figure out what's recyclable. Where is that recycling going? What are the end uses for the materials that are being collected and processed? And then once you have kind of figured that out, if you have concerns about the way those systems are set up, then most places have ways for citizens to participate in solid waste planning. I mean, we think about like recycling participation as like you putting your stuff in the right bins, but actually there's this whole other kind of arena where you can participate, which is as more of a political actor than like a trash manager. Yeah, I mean, some people will say like, oh, you know, if each person generates 600 pounds of waste per year, then how is it not meaningful that I didn't generate that? But then when you compare that, that amount to like what's coming out of New York City, like it's...
Are you hopeful for the future of recycling?
I am, but it's because like people are just so creative, and because every time you like pause and look around, you find examples of people figuring out how to reuse materials in interesting ways. I find that really exciting, and I mean, I think our current recycling systems are like pretty medium, but I think there's always more happening, and there's always more possibility. It's like we have the opportunity to keep working on it until we figure it out.
But step one, know where things stand right now. Then step two, if you're unhappy with that, then you can get involved with political change.
Definitely.
To to change that. Easy peasy. That's a checklist. Step 1, step 2. Done. This is the conclusion now, but don't click away, I have important stuff to say. Basically, to be zero waste, I just had to give up certain things, like candy or chips or anything that comes in soft plastic packaging. You just can't have it because there's not a way to recycle that. There are lots of ways to be sustainable, and I think zero waste is a pretty extreme example, but I did like it as an exercise. I think some of my biggest takeaways that are feasible for me, and I know have a high impact, are composting. I learned a lot more stuff is recyclable in New York City than I thought. I like now that I have silverware and a plate at work. And I learned that aluminum cans are really recyclable everywhere and very high values. So TLDR on recycling. Why do so many people feel like it's a scam? Because the rules change so much from place to place and over time. So you hear something about recycling that's true somewhere else or used to be true where you live, and now it's not true anymore and you feel like you've been lied to. What's actually going on is that recycling is just very localized. You need to go and look up exactly how it works in your area. What's accepted, what's not, what's accepted right now, because it might change over time. Part of why it changes so much is because legislation varies so much, and a lot of it happens at the city level. The other reason is that there's not the same demand for those recycled materials in every place. But the most important thing to know from this, my biggest takeaway, is that almost all curbside recycling in the US gets sorted at a facility like the one you saw in Indianapolis. So you should learn what's accepted in your area, but you are not going to mess up a whole batch of recycling if you put one wrong item in. You can trust that recycling is not a scam. Let's set the record straight. Fact versus myth.
Okay.
Bugs can eat styrofoam and get rid of it for us.
I would say myth. Maybe it's technically possible under some kind of very limited laboratory conditions, but it's certainly not commercially viable.
I think there's a good sci-fi movie to be made from the perspective of a bug that was genetically engineered to only eat styrofoam about not knowing what its place is in the world. So maybe just for that.
Hello, I am Worm Guy. Today I'll probably go outside. I've never been to outside. 1 year ago, human friends made me to help important job. Eat yummy styrofoam. I am so good at eat styrofoam. It is my favorite food. Human friends have a place called outside used to tell me. Human friends say when finished styrofoam can go outside. But here go right turn off human not here. 2 days ago finished eat styrofoam. Now time to go outside like human said. Don't know outside, but if humans say must be good. Hopefully much styrofoam.